This information is brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries in partnership with Self-Help Africa through the funding of the European Union.
The agricultural sector is the backbone of the national economy, contributing directly 25% of gross domestic product (GDP). In addition to being a key driver of national development, agriculture is a means of achieving equity and improving the welfare of a majority of the Kenyan population. In recent years, the country has been facing severe food insecurity, experienced by a high proportion of the population.
In the past, we used to be food self-sufficient because the population was manageable. Our population is growing at 2.9%, and we are not growing the production at the same level. In the past, we used to increase production by increasing the area under production. Like at independence, we had 785,000 hectares under maize, for example. But right now it grew to 2.1 million hectares. And in some instances, you can't grow any further. And then we had large-scale farms, which we subdivided through the settlement scheme program. So now most of the farm sizes are very small. In some areas, they have become so small that they are not viable anymore.
With the emerging phenomenon of climate change and its consequences, root and tuber crops offer choices and opportunities as they exhibit higher tolerance thresholds to a variety of stresses such as water and heat stress, water salinity, and the emergence of new pests.
Crops like cassava, sweet potatoes, arrowroots, and yams. These are previously what people used to call them orphaned crops. That no researchers or no business entrepreneurs were going into them.
Cassava comes in, of course, and other roots and tuber as good crops to supplement the reliance on maize, because most of our food, our staple food in most of the households is maize and rice. And we all know that we don't grow sufficient rice to fulfill the needs of the country.
Self-Help Africa, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries through the funding of the European Union, together with other stakeholders, have come up with a strategy in an effort to diversify the produce of the country by providing a roadmap for the development of the root and tuber crop subsector in Kenya.
It's a great achievement for the program because now we have clarity on how we can engage with various stakeholders in as far as strengthening the competitiveness of some of these crops is concerned. The strategy looks at addressing various issues and providing a framework through which the implementation of root and tuber within the country as development agenda falls in. And it looks at promoting improved quality and certified planting material in the root and tuber sector, because basically not many private companies have come in to multiply seed for vegetative crops like the ones we have in the root and tuber. And it also looks at production in terms of improving good productivity through promoting good agricultural practices for these particular crops. It looks at the marketing framework, looks at the coordination framework. It all looks at the whole area of marketing and market linkages.
We are also going to create market hubs, market centers, so that the roots and tuber crops will get where farmers can sell their produce. The last one is the issue of involving everyone, both the able, the youth, the women. These are usually left out when many strategies are being developed, but this strategy has created a space for them so that everyone is involved in productivity.
Root and tuber crops are an important source of food and feed and apply an important role in ensuring food security.
Root and tuber crops have a high potential for Kenya. Already the second food crop in the country, but they have the potential to do more. In terms of food security, they are an excellent source of carbohydrates, but also of other nutritional values, like vitamin A for the orange flesh sweet potatoes, potatoes and cassava, cocoyams, they all have a very good potential.
The major root and tuber crops grown in Kenya include Irish potatoes, cassava, sweet potatoes, cocoyams and yams. They are the second most important food crops after cereals.
These are our traditional crops. They're quite nutritious, they provide starch, and they are very viable alternative. And I think embracing these crops will turn the whole of Kenya into a bread basket instead of only relying on 2 or 3 counties.
Most producers have challenges finding clean, quality seeds or planting materials. This has resulted in spread of diseases, hence continuous decline in yield.
And as much as I said that research has bred varieties that are resistant to pests and diseases, there's still a lot of challenges around pests and diseases because not all farmers have embraced the improved varieties. Some of the farmers are still growing the indigenous varieties that are very, very, infected with viral diseases. And because some of these diseases are spread by flies, through the vector fly, it just means that the spread is rampant and it can even affect the improved varieties as well.
So now you have to change your tactics in terms of the kind of research you're doing. We now use more disease testing diagnostics to ensure, like for example, we have a program with virus indexing. So the material that you're propagating is clean, no viruses. Also the issue of true to typeness. So we have to do genotyping to ensure that this is the correct variety. So those are some of the things you have to put in place because you don't want to say that this is this variety and actually when they go and plant it, it's another one. It can be a nightmare when a farmer expects an orange flesh type and then they get a purple fleshed or yellow or white.
How will the different stakeholders make sure an efficient seed production and distribution system involving the farmers, seed merchants, public institutions have the materials required by the market demand?
We have realized that if farmers like certain varieties of crops or type of seed, you find that some people will start faking them and selling farmers seed that is not certified. And then the farmer wonders, why did I plant the recommended seed and I still didn't get the kind of yield I wanted. So as KEFIS, one of the things we do is to train farmers on how to recognize the seeds that have been certified by KEFIS. We also train them on the use of certified seeds. We create awareness to them and also encourage them if people are selling to them materials that is not certified to report to KEFIS. We also collaborate with the various agriculture practitioners in the field, the county governments and the NGOs that are working with farmers at the counties. And this way we are able to create awareness.
The issues of extension also, capacity building farmers. That's where also organizations like CALRO and SelfHelpAfrica can come in to work with the counties to make sure that there is adoption and that their methods, the methods of extension of husbandry are adopted by the farmers. And then also organizing farmers into groups, because if you plant a crop as an individual, you can't create an economy.
Where CALRO focuses in terms of variety development is foundation seed. We are the keepers of that to ensure that we begin the process. We ensure in true to typeness, we ensure in terms of quality, We ensure that the certification, that's the part we do. But we have limited space. So to make sure it gets to the end users, we work with several partners, private sector. We even have public sector partners. For example, on potato, we are multiplying to meet the kind of trying to, we're at 4 to 5% of the need for certified potato. We're working with ADC and KDF. KDF is a new entry, yeah? Yeah, KDF doesn't just protect Kenyans, our border. It is also contributing to food security, and we're really grateful. Then we also work with farmers, particular select farmers, large scale, that are trained to ensure that they're producing a good quality, clean seed, no diseases.
We also need to get some other policy initiatives that will open the market. For example, in talking about initiatives that in other countries have been taking place, like mandatory blending of cassava flour or other kind of flour together with maize flour, in order for farmers to be ensured that there is a market, and also for processors to be interested in it.
How then will the strategy help in improving the standard of living of Kenyans?
What we're trying to do with the smallholder farmers is that first promote the improved varieties so that they can increase yields per unit area, and by increasing yields per unit area they can bring their price per kilo lower, so that the companies that process cassava can be able to buy from them.
With the systems being put in place, it means that the industry will grow, and then what will happen is that those who are investing into the systems will not feel that they're having unfair competition by those who are not investing into the system. Because what happens is that you may promote the use of certified materials, but also when there is no system or regulations for enforcement, you find that other people will still grow the same and go, and even sometimes even just tell the farmer that the materials are certified, and the farmer may not be able to tell the difference. But also as a regulator, there's nothing much you can do about it.
How will it help to make sure there is increased production and incomes?
In order to have a commercial cassava production, you have to select the most productive varieties with the best characteristics. For example, there are some for processing and there are some just for eating. There are different varieties with the different levels of yields. There is a need to supply some fertilizer to support productivity. So there is that farmers have to be trained about. With cassava, you have a resilient crop, and that provides the same starch that you get in maize, maybe even better. And sometimes in some societies, they have even used it to make bread, like in Nigeria. In some societies, they use it to make noodle, because the cassava flour is also a bit sticky. And especially for people who are sensitive to gluten, they can use cassava as an alternative. So in some countries, it's a high-value crop, so because of the fact that people who are allergic to gluten can embrace cassava starch.
As different strides are being made to increase the strong growth in food demand for root and tuber crops, processing technologies and marketing techniques have come out as key constraints in the strategy development. For example, cassava is nearly always processed before consumption or marketing, not only to detoxify it, but also increase its storage life and to facilitate its transport. The primary processing activities include peeling, chipping, drying, storage of dried chips, and flouring.
One of the ways in which we have done this was to develop standards for blending, so that we blend maize like 70%, 30% with either maize flour or sorghum or millet or sweet potatoes and things like that, so that we have a pull from the market.
With With that in mind, substantial efforts have been put in place for the development of commercial processes with a view to helping farmers increase their incomes, improve quality of life, nutrition, and sustain food security. How will the implementation of the root and tuber crops in the country help in making sure the country is food secure?
But what this strategy has done is they have formed technical groups that will be meeting periodically so that whatever is happening on the ground gets to the top, and then whatever we've developed here is able to get to the ground. Because in these technical groups, we have from researchers, academia, we have the farmers, we have the private sector, we have the extensionists that are in there, so that as they meet periodically, we are able to, now we're connecting the top from the bottom and the bottom from the top. So you have this feedback mechanism in place so that we know things happening before they become so bad, that we're able to manage and nip them in the bud. And then it also allows us to quickly respond to what the farmer needs, what the private sector needs, because we're trying to promote commercialization of these. That's why there's a strategy, is to commercialize these three value chains, the big three. Remember, there's still the small ones. So how do we commercialize them? Is we need to have all the actors in those value chains in a platform. As a researcher, we call it an innovation platform. So everybody on that is providing something that makes that platform strong, that is innovative. What do the farmers have to do? They need to adopt those technologies.
This information is brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries in partnership with SelfHelpAfrica through the funding of the European Union.